Hey, thanks for joining me for What's That All About? Keeping it kind of mellow today because this one turned into a bit of a doozy of an episode. It started off with me thinking, hey, I'm going to do this whole episode on this former FBI agent who was nicknamed Fox Mulder, like from the X-Files. And then it morphed into something a lot more difficult and sinister. Sinister is a good word for it. Sinister and creepy, and just a lot of stuff came out that I kind of wish I didn't keep digging into, but going to share it with you because I think that there are a couple of things here that I'm glad I know now, but I didn't know before I did this. So with that, I'm going to say that there are things that I discovered about former FBI agent John D'Souza and his insights that I don't necessarily agree with, and you may not either. I found his beliefs, however, in a certain area of alien phenomenon correlating to missing people phenomenon to be very bold, fascinating, and insightful. I thought he was really spot on with a lot of things that I do believe that are a little weird and a little out there. As you know, I'm a little weird, a little out there. But his attention does tend now, it seems, to go to conspiracy theories that are even down a darker rabbit hole than anything I've ever gone down. So, and you know that that's saying a lot because I go down quite a few of them. But they're kind of innocent ones. They're not like, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to just let it kind of work its way out, okay? You'll see what I mean, I think, pretty obviously. Now, the reason why he got his nickname, anyway, for being Fox Mulder from X-Files was that former FBI agents actually took a lot of his case files and his notes, and these agents that were retired were actually working in Hollywood as consultants on films and shows and on X-Files. So Chris Carter, who's the creator of X-Files, actually got a lot of the information, not from John, but from the FBI in a roundabout way. So anyway, that's how he got his name. And boy, it really is perfect because he's got some crazy stuff that happened to him in his 25 years at the Bureau. Now, I really did think that I would be just going through his case files, and reading about, like, as I'll tell you here, like there's cow mutilations and there's stuff with missing persons and portals and all this cool stuff. And then, as I said, we diverged. So at a town hall meeting, and during my research, I watched a town hall meeting that was organized by David Paulides. Now, does that work with 411, missing 411 folks, and he's fantastic. He's, helped so many people, and he's done such great research and work. And he also has, a series, I don't know if you call it a podcast, but it's the Can-Am show on YouTube. I don't know. He's brilliant, though. He does some great things. But he invited John as his guest at this town hall setup type thing. They began their discussion by drawing the correlation between John's cases when he was active of missing person cases and David's current and past cases. So now in almost all of them, there's one common denominator. I know you'd think there'd be a couple, but no, there's one common denominator. When a person actually goes missing, the suspicious way that they have, they're always alone. No witnesses. And it doesn't matter if they're alone for 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 hours. There is always a moment that they're alone, and this happens. Now, David calls it the point of separation. John, in a funny, I think, way, in a lighthearted way, calls it, I gotta pee mystery. He calls it that. So John says that in most cases of a disappearance, even if these people do not start off alone, like if they go out with a group of friends or something, okay, there's always a point in the the retelling of the story by whoever, that there was a moment where this person who did go just missing said, I got to go pee. And it's in that minimal window that they go missing without any traces at all. Okay. And John is a firm believer that some people are disappearing into portals and or extra dimensional realities. Now, see, I am completely on board with that because I do think that that is something that can be explained for some of these disappearances. I also actually, in past episodes, have said that that's what I believe the Bigfoots travel in. I think they're in portals. There's no reason why we haven't seen them more other than there's a supernatural reason where they can go from place to place very quickly without being seen, no traces left behind kind of thing. Makes sense, don't you think? A little bit, maybe? All right, we'll move on. He also claims that these creatures, now see, he calls them creatures. I call them like aliens or beings or something, but creatures. He calls them creatures. From within these portals, they can simply materialize, come out, grab a person, and dematerialize. And then the portals, I don't think to the layman or human eyes, we can see them until it's too late kind of thing. I don't know. Another example, though, of his crazy cases, John's, are the cow, well, sometimes other farm animals, but most likely cow, most of the time, cow mutilations. And in the 1990s, they were a hot kind of topic. I mean, Linda Moulton Howe, who I know I've told you about, and she's in my book as well, but my UFO book. I'm not mentioning it, don't worry. She did a award-winning documentary solely on cow mutilations and the meticulous and precision in the surgical way that they're done and how there's never any trace of anything. Same thing with John. Now, ranchers like across the country, right, they'll call in the FBI when the local authorities just are at their wits' end and they cannot make heads or tails of what is happening to these animals. So he describes also, John does, that upon reviewing footage of past mutilations, coyotes and wolves alike will uncharacteristically stay very far away from the remaining carcasses. These remaining carcasses have tons of meat still on them, and they refuse to go near them. And John said that they did extensive testing around the area of the cow, the carcass itself, and other than a very minimal amount of like a elevated radiation. I know that sounds bad, but you can actually find radiation in very odd places at non-dangerous levels, non-lethal or anything like that. But there was no electromagnetic disturbances around the animals of any kind. So, but they were acting very uncharacteristic of they're scavengers. They go after, animals like this and they don't leave anything behind, They take their turn at the buffet until it's all gone, okay? Now, in almost every case, John describes when he decides to go and work with these ranchers and their security teams, he brings along with him a whole arsenal of, at the time, for the 90s, the FBI's best equipment for surveillance and for sensors, motion sensors throughout the whole area that's being affected, the herd of cows and whatnot. So they set everything up, and without fail, there is a mutilation would happen, and the next day after they've discovered that, that a cow has gone down, or whatever, they review the footage only to come across a blinding bright light that it eliminates all sight of anything around the video. And also, strangely, the light, it only lasts for about 3 to 5 seconds. 5 seconds is on the longer end. And then suddenly everything falls silent. And the night, you can hear the crickets again. And There's just nothing's moving. And the precision mutilation has occurred. And then you notice that the other cows in the herd, while all of this has gone on, they've almost become like statues until the light goes away. And all of a sudden, they just start to gradually move away from the carcass of the cow that was just mutilated. So strange. Okay. I haven't witnessed anything, but I've seen video, I didn't want to put up cow mutilation pictures. I'm not gross like that. I don't know. I can't do it. I'm sure you've seen them. But anyway, there's a lot of unanswered questions around these. And when John would write up his reports and bring them to his superiors and say, there's something paranormal going on here, they didn't want to hear it. They would say, can't you just put, maybe it's kids, vandalism. And he's like, what kids do you know that know like surgical, that can do surgical things like this and get specific pieces of the cow? He was like, no, it's paranormal or it's aliens or it's one of the two, right? Or both, whatever. And they just bury it. His superiors would just bury it. Okay. And that pisses me off because it's like, man, he's on to something. And I can also see how his Fox Mulder name was cemented. And, these were the kinds of stories I thought I was going to be getting even more into. But that was when he took his turn. Now, he did get into some trouble with the FBI from time to time right before he retired. And I guess he and James Comey or Jim Comey, however you say it, it's Comey, had a very hate relationship. And there was no love lost between them whatsoever. And John did not agree with him heading up the FBI. Long story short, John has made claims, this is one of the reasons why he was on the shit list for the FBI, that the FBI will be dispersed one day due to the fact that they are overreaching their power over American citizens. That could have some serious validity to it. I don't know. I'm not really, one to say. I have a dearly departed relative that was in the FBI for 35 years, and she, I don't think would agree with that. And that's probably why I'm inherently kind of protective a little bit of them. But anyway, and honestly, this is where he goes right into the head deep end of 9/11, September 11th conspiracies. Now, I want to tell you about a couple of facts, okay? I'm kind of a conspiracy realist, whereas when I find facts that are not rumors, this is the kind of stuff that makes my mind turn or change, okay? On September 10th of 2001, day before September 11th, Donald Rumsfeld held a press conference at the Pentagon reporting that they had no accounting or receipts, couldn't locate any of them, for 2.3 trillion. That's not millions with an M, billions, no, trillion. $2.3 trillion, okay, was unaccounted for. He put that in a press conference. The very next day was 9/11. The supposed plane that crashed into the Pentagon, or whatever that was that happened at the Pentagon, was specifically targeted to the location of the Pentagon that has all the accounting records. Now, I don't know about you, but when I had some reflection time, I remember the press conference. And I also remember never hearing word one about that $2.3 trillion ever again. I did hear about us going to war. Did hear about that, of course. Sorry. Another point of interest. When the planes were taken over by the terrorists, and it is claimed that family members were calling to their using phones to get to call to their families. The cell phone calls there's a really, really very slim chance that that could have happened because there was no technology in 2001 where anyone could make a call at an altitude, almost any altitude, from an airplane. Now, swipe credit card, that takes time, doing the whole picking the phone, which aren't even on planes, most of them anymore. And if they are, you're on an old plane. But anyway, that's an oddity, a part of the story that I'm not sure how I feel about. Also of note, the owner of the World Trade Center buildings, he had the buildings up for sale for quite some time. Just days before 9/11, he hugely, massively increased his insurance on those buildings and became even richer beyond I think it's hundreds of millions. I think he got hundreds of millions from that, from the whole event. I believe it though. See, this is where I start to get angry because of what I'm on. I felt like I was uncovering as I went. In the debris, all the terrorist passports, every single one of them were recovered without a burn mark, without a scratch. They had no kind of trauma to them whatsoever, okay? All of the terrorist passports. Yet they couldn't locate people's bodies, teeth. I mean, everything was incinerated. You saw the pictures, okay? The destruction was so massive and everything burned so hot. I mean, ask the survivors, they'll tell you. And yet those passports survived, every single one of them. Now, more than 3,000 people perished in 9/11, as we all know. John D'Souza claims the original plan, what plan? The original plan was to kill 50,000 people. And he says that, yes, it was an inside job. Okay? You let that marinate for a minute and you almost want to you want to get sick. I feel sick even repeating it. The World Trade Center's at capacity for the employees is 50,000 people. Okay? Now, security for those buildings at the time were instructed to stop people from leaving the buildings, telling them to go back to their offices where they'll be safe. Now, just 2 days before 9/11, all the PA systems, pre-recordings, were changed to reflect that message also. There is no danger. Go back to your offices. You will be safe there. Turn around, go back to your offices. It was repeated on a loop. And it was just, those recordings were made just 2 days before. Now, this is where John D'Souza and I go completely different directions. I do not agree with, as a disclaimer, I'm just saying that. I do not believe anything I'm about to say. Okay? I am just reporting my research. John believes that an elite cabal, they believe they rule the earth, he says, and they used 9/11 as a ritual sacrifice to their dark god, and that the attacks were actually sophisticated holograms. Let that sit think about what he is saying. He is telling you and me and everybody he talks to, and he's got a platform. He's telling people that, what? So did the people who die really die? Did the family members really lose their family members? Are they lying? Are you calling 9/11 survivors liars? These families that lost their family, I get really mad. I'm going to try and pull back. I'm sorry. But if that's what he is saying, I'm out. Vegas style. I'm out. I'm out. So anyway, I know that I've laid a lot on you, and I know this is a really heavy duty kind of episode, and I'm sorry about that, but I really just wanted to share what I learned because I really wanted to just give the information, get it out there, and you decide. Obviously, it's your decision. If you think that I'm full of crap, totally fine. I get it. That is your prerogative, but you should know one thing about me, and anyone who knows me will tell you this. I do not lie. If I believe something to be true, that is my truth, but I don't lie. Now, I hope you are all, please, staying happy and healthy. Stay weird. I know I'm weird. I know. I get it. But until next time, I just hope that you guys all take good care of each other. Okay? Thanks.